What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, showing off that Drytron Dogmatika deck that I just played yesterday. I feel like this is in a really good spot, actually. I'm pretty happy with this deck list. I'll go over it, and then I'll go over some more gameplay at the end, because the first gameplay video I did, I kind of showed all the iterations of the deck, and then all these replays now will kind of be like this deck list specifically. I don't think I made any changes in a while. So we can start off here with just the one Fleur. It can be searched off with a ritual spell at the end because this sends Ash, which is really cool. The 3 Diviner. This card is like $60 right now. It sucks because like everything else got a reprint. Everything else is really cheap. Even like Zeus. And I don't play like any like pot of cards. This is all inexpensive except for this card. But what are you gonna do? 2 Herald of Orange Light. Like you rarely actually use the effect of this card. It's more of just something to search out, and it's just okay. It's a decent target. But most of the time, you're going to want to discard it one at a time, with Herald. You're not going to use the effect to tribute the Diviner. But it has come up before where it's like necessary for hand traps. On a few replays, it will. So it's actually kind of nice. The Drytron lineup here is, I think, pretty standard. Just the 1 Delta, the 1 Gamma, 3 Zeta, and 3 Alpha. Those are just the best ones. You definitely have to run these at 3. These are so easy to Foolish Burial now, so like there's like extra copies all over the place. You can send them off of Beatrice. You can do it off of Fafnir, which can easily be summoned with Instant Fusion too if you only have 1 Drytron in hand. The 1 Ava, of course, is limited. This is one of my favorite tech cards here. Really, like your opponent, when they know about it, they have to like change the way they're playing the game, because if they leave something on the board, or they have something in their hand, then they're just gonna like lose a ton of advantage. So it makes them play like really conservative, and obviously non-targeting removal. This is non-targeting banishment is really, really great for the deck. That kind of is awkward when it comes to that category of like getting hard to beat monsters off the board like Dragoon, but this is that out, and that's why I play it. And then White Knight of Dogmatika, of course. This card is just so insane, being able to pluck cards out of your opponent's extra deck every single turn. You know what they're playing, you know what they're on. I'll show it off in Dragon Link. It's crazy what this card can do. Herald of Perfection, of course. I don't run the other Herald ritual because Dawn of Herald is an absolutely insane card. Cyber Angel Benton. It's kind of silly in my opinion that they limited this card, because I only run 2 copies of Preparation, right? So it's like you have 3 copies. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure like back in the day they weren't running 3 Ben 10 and 3 Preparation, so it effectively does nothing. Well, if this gets Ash, that's a little different story, but yeah, for the most part, it's kind of the same thing. And then the Cyber Angel E to 10 is also kind of a way to get over some awkward stuff. You can trigger the effect a bunch of times, like in the middle of the game, to boost the attack of either Herald or whatever ritual you have out there of these 3. Instant Fusion I kind of talked about. It's a really great target for Millenniumized Restrict. You can go into you can go into the Nightingale, which is cool. You can go into Fafnir. It doesn't really matter. This card is so versatile, and it just eats up people's hand traps, of course. 3 Disciple. This card obviously is a 1-card Dogmatika ritual, because you can send Herald, search the White Knight of Dogmatika, because this has 600 attack. This is only 500. And then, off of Herald, you can search the ritual spell activate, all that good stuff. Pre-preparation of rites. I've gone back and forth on this a little bit, but because if you have the ritual Herald, Dawn of Herald in your hand with this, it's like a super brick. I used to think that having Herald in hand was a brick too, but technically you can actually use the effect of a Drytron, tributing the Herald, activate Preparation, because you can grab the ritual monster from graveyard. It's just the ritual spell that has to be from deck, which is actually a pretty good interaction, and why I put this back at 3. Obviously, this does so much for you, because if you have a Ben 10 and pre-prep, then you've already gone into Herald with like multiple negates, and like more coming too, because obviously you're tributing, the Ben 10 searches, adding it back to hand, with Dawn of Herald. Very good interaction. 2 Cyber Emergency and 2 Nova. This might be awkward, I don't know, but these can only be activated once per turn. So you never, you want to have the least amount possible to open up 2 of them, which, you could technically play 1, but you want to see more often than not. So I think 2 is that kind of good sweet spot there. That's why I play it like that. I already talked about kind of like this. It's just kind of a 3rd copy of Ben 10. Because you have 3 alpha too. Like, you're able to search Ben 10 so much. This card obviously searches also like your other rituals, but it doesn't really do a lot for you. You know, it's not super high impact, not enough to have 3, at least for me. The one Meteoronus Drytron, if they banish it, they banish it, and you just scoop or whatever. You know, you just have to live with that, because otherwise it's just going to be too bricky. I've talked about Dawn of Herald a lot. This is the Dogmatika Ritual spell that lets you, you know, dump the Titan Clad, the Ash Dragon. Called by the Grave. If this was at 3, I think I'd still play it at 1 in the main deck, and then have 2 in the side and take out like 2 Forbidden Droplets. That's probably how I'd play it, because you do, you know, want your plays to go through. Of course, this is a combo heavy deck, so I would, like, you can't fit Cross-Up Designator, so this is like the best thing, of course. Like, this is so silly that this card is like on the ban list at all, considering the cards that we have out right now. And then the 3 Forbidden Droplets. Let's go to the extra deck. The Titan Clad, 2 Elder, 1 Millenniumized Restrict, 1 Wind Pegasus Adagnister. This is also like pretty good removal. It does target, but it's shuffle, so it gets around destruction effects, which could definitely come in handy. Also, it's just 1 card, so we can get rid of, like, you know, problem, like trap cards, all that good stuff. This is a great versatility card. Also, you can hard make it, you know, with Diviner. If you send Herald and you have 1 Drytron, it makes a 6, which is also why I have F.A. Don Draxter in here. But if this is summoned, like, you get to pop like a 1 spell and trap per turn. Like, it's not like a once per duel effect or whatever. Like, every single time, if they don't get rid of it, and if they do get rid of it, then you get the pop effect. You can kind of see the synergy there. This card is super underrated. 2 Herald. You always want to search, you know, ritual monsters, ritual spells. Zeus, Beatrice, Downward Magician, Drytron, Fafnir with ensembled Nightingale, Nightmare Unicorn, and the IP Masquerena, because you're going to have a lot of like extra stuff on the board. I don't run any big links, but it doesn't really seem necessary. It's a little awkward pushing for damage sometimes, but, you know, I to 10, if you get creative enough, can like help, you know, fill in that gap, and you can usually put a lot of bodies on board too. We'll go to the side. I'm pretty sure this is like so standard, right? 3 Nibiru, 3 Droll, 3 Lightning Storm, although I think this could be Cosmic, to be honest with you. It's probably like a better choice. It's also much cheaper. Dark Ruler No More and Evenly Matched. I think this card's getting pretty popular, and for good reason. We'll go ahead and go over to the replays here. I have a few. We'll start with like pure Lyrilisks. I've talked about this deck, and I talked about it, I think, on my meta tier list. I just don't think it's as good. I just want to make sure, because I didn't see any of those when I was playing. Yeah, I don't think there's any Tri-Brigade. It's just, this has like a much lower ceiling. Tri-Brigade does so much. Like, your extra deck is just so diverse. And it's crazy because they don't even use the trap, which was like the big power card of the deck for so long. Yeah, this is pretty much full combo. One thing you have to make sure of is, like, if you do open Nadir Servant, that you at no point search Albaz. Like, search the Necroz, even though you can't summon it this turn, or like the effect won't go off because it has to target in the hand, field, and graveyard. So, because otherwise, like, you're going to have to, your searches are going to be very awkward. You're not going to be able to, like, even summon this card because you won't be able to get the ritual spell off of Nadir Servant. You, like, have to send Titan Clad, which is already a waste. Alright, so we have the double negate there, but I still have, you know, 1 Herald, which is why this card definitely comes in handy. And I still have the third negate, and I still have IP Masquerena too. So I have a lot of follow-up through, like, 2, you know, like, the infinite impermanence and the Forbidden Chalice. This is just the power of this card. I mean, I'm getting rid of his access to F0, which is super duper sick. I can still negate all these effects. Yeah, and then the follow-up, of course. Like, all the names are in the graveyard, so that's pretty cool. I think I bricked game 1. I won game 2 that you saw, and then this is game 3. So I'm kind of like behind the 8 ball. I remember when I was playing this. A little nervous, but I don't know exactly what their end boards look like. So he kind of signaled to me a little bit by searching the Sapphire Swallow. It's like, I'm daring you to have like a really good extender in hand, and, you know, luckily he didn't. And he's just going to go ahead and attach 3 with the Robin, which is totally fine because these effects still go off. Like, the bouncing effect doesn't do anything. I'll probably go into the Trish at some point because he has Bird Call in his hand. I definitely want to get rid of that, of course. There goes the Zeta. Zeta can search me Dawn, because I think I already had this one in my hand. There goes the Infinite Impermanence. Quite all right, because I can go into the Trishula here, He's going to bounce it back to the hand, but that's our, like, we're in a more simplified game state now, so I'm just going to be able to loop these again next turn, so it's really not an issue. No Wagtail for him. I don't want him, be able to attach from the graveyard. That was kind of like my thinking. And then a top deck of Nova is good, but I still would have been fine, right? Because I had a Ritual in hand, and I can Ritual summon back from the graveyard. So that was a really nice duel there. We'll go over to Dragon Link now. This is like a 50-card Dragon Link deck with a lot of going second cards. Like, surprisingly, I don't know if they prefer that way, but I think when I played them, they didn't. You always, of course, want to go first. And no negates here, so evenly matched comes down. I still have 2 forms of interruption here. And this is the duel that shows off like how good this card is. Because it's the only card on field, right? You wouldn't think it's that good. And actually, it was kind of good that I didn't extend because it did have evenly. Anyways, I'm just, being patient here. I know he has Dragoon at this point. This is like the second duel. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of his Savage because I don't want to go into any Synchros. It's a hard negate. I don't think he has that many more. I'm going to get rid of one of his Link materials. The Dragoon's coming, but I do have the answer here with the Fleur. And I think he kind of like messed around and like he kind of went silly. The IP is going to, go into obviously the Mech Knight Crusadia, but I think he could have gotten rid of, my White Knight, which I pretty much would recommend that he would have done. Instead, he's kind of leaving the door open for me here. This is going to gain attack, and I'm going to go ahead and negate here. So these are just going to crash into each other. He's going to go ahead and shuffle Herald back into the deck, and I just still have this guy on the board. I think I have a permanent attack boost as of right now. I can go ahead and activate this. I'm going to pop the field spell, and now he's like really low on like being able to link crime. Romulus obviously is like a huge combo extender. I sent Heavenly Spheres earlier. He already went into Predaplant Verde Anaconda and IP. So pretty much all that's left now, I'm thinking is like Access Code Talker. The LP obviously isn't doing anything. Unicorn's obviously pretty bad. That would hurt me. Okay, but now I'm starting to draw some names. And in terms of like a War of Attrition, like this deck is just so good. All it needs is just one off the top to completely pop off. It just takes one name or like one ritual monster. And since you have so many in your deck, it's like you're just naturally going to do that eventually. He's not activating effects, so he's not giving me a chance. Obviously, he's like trying to play around this card, like I talked about how high impact this was. I've stopped so many of his plays already, right, by sending those to the graveyard. All right, there we go. Here comes Trish. He's going to go ahead and try to negate all Forbidden Droplets. This card is so good. I'll banish the Serpent from his graveyard, targeting this, going back here, and then I think I can go right back into the Dogmatika Ritual because it's only 500 attack, so you can even use the effect to grab the Ritual spell back to hand and still only have one Drytron to use to go into the Ritual, which is another reason why this card is amazing. This is Evil Twin. Again, like, I talked about, like, oh, this card isn't that good. It's actually a kind of good, especially when you have a hand like this. This is like full combo, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and negate there because I'm pretty sure he's not able to summon another Evil Twin. And that was just a really well-timed hand trap. I wasn't planning on using this. I was hoping I wouldn't have to. But yeah, otherwise he would have like gone full combo and Trouble Sunny, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, just like that, boom. I could have activated Alpha, tributed Zeta, grabbed the Ben 10, Ritual Summon, add it back to hand. Yeah, like that's really, really cool. Fossil Fusion. This deck is so silly, in my opinion. Okay, so goes into Link Kurbo Pass. I did not choose for him to go first. I kind of don't know why he did that. I don't know what they can even do going first. Diviner's really cool because it can send something like an Elder. So I'm playing around Super Poly. I just felt like he had it. When I'm playing a Fossil Fusion deck, I'm like, this guy definitely has Poly somewhere in there. All right, I can trigger the Idleton. Idleton, boost the attack of this. It's a big 3,800 defense now. It's going to have a hard time getting over that. Plus all the negates that are coming because this is going to turn into a Beatrice. Beatrice can send the Trish. I'm pretty sure I actually misplayed pretty bad here. Or, yeah, I could have gone into the Trish, but in my mind, I'm thinking a 2-pop Zeus is probably a little more high impact. Because I only have like one hard negate, right, with the Ben 10 in hand. And it's just awesome because, like, even if when you do tribute this card, and yeah, obviously Beatrice can send the Ava next turn, but if it's in the graveyard, you can ritual summon, and then if you have a bunch of names in the graveyard, you can keep tributing like that, the ritual Ben 10 to search again. So it's like, even though you only have one copy, you can still use the effect like a ton of times during the duel. This is Odd Eyes, like, sure, why not? Super Poly again. I think I get like hit super hard with Super Poly, so we'll see how I'm able to work through it. There aren't a lot of great targets for Drytron, although I think the Dogmatika is light, so if they're playing Mud Dragon, then yeah, that's probably pretty bad. I still think it's worth it, though. I don't think Super Poly is that popular, to be honest with you. It doesn't really do much against the meta, so I don't think people are playing it in their decks. In casual, like I think it's like the staple of casual decks is running Super Poly, right? But I think for the most part, you'll be fine if you play this deck. I can keep adding. I think it's like lets you keep adding it back to hand. IP Masquerena, and then the Dogmatika. During the standby phase, I can go ahead and send the Ava off of Beatrice to give myself a little more disruption. And there we go. He goes to fire off the Super Poly. Yeah, he just had Starving Venom, didn't have Mud Dragon. So, yeah, that's tough because I'm going to be able to get a whole bunch of good stuff here. The IP is really just kind of like a backup plan. Negate the effect with Herald. No ritual summoning for you, and doesn't have anything else. That's just a hard board to break. And let's see what this is. I don't think this is the right deck. Yeah, this is Salomon Greats. I don't know why I called it Psychic deck. Oh, because he did emerge to teleport, and I didn't understand. I should have activated Instant Fusion first, although the more I think about it, because I have full combo right outside of this card, basically outside of the preparation. So if that's the case, then I think I just kind of let that hand trap go through. Like, people have multiple hand traps now, and I wouldn't want to waste this. Now, should I have summoned this first, and like give myself the option? Like, yeah, probably. I'm actually going to hold on to this Millennium Eyes Restrict until the end phase in case he has a Nibiru and he's holding it in hand. He didn't. He did have the Ghost Ogre, but if he did try to use it during that turn, I did have the answer. So he did have two hand traps there. He's going to get rid of that, but that's all right because Ava's still going to search me too. I'm going to have 3 negates, and like worst case scenario, I use IP, right, to go into Nightmare Unicorn. And he just didn't have anything to do after that. This looks like it's random. I think there's only a couple more duels here. This is also Dragon Link. I didn't really understand because it's like a Dragoon Dragon Link deck. I don't know. It kind of feels a little all over the place, especially like why, unless you're playing the spell that searches Red Eyes Fusion, like why are you running Red Eyes Wyvern? Maybe to send off of, but he's not even running the Chaos Synchro. This is like I guess this is just a going second Dragon Link deck trying to go into big 4s. Which is alright. I mean, he does have the Kaiju here, so I honestly don't even remember how I survived this. There we go. And see, yeah, I searched this during that turn. That was the problem. I wanted to show that to you because I talked about don't search this if you have Nadir Servant. You're just cheating yourself out of a ritual monster. I mean, I'll be alright. I don't run Appaloosa anymore, actually, so yeah, Ripperoni to me. He looked at my hand, but I had 2 orange light, so I still had that hard negate, which was pretty cool, and plenty of follow-up play, of course, in the graveyard. So he just didn't have anything going for him. Don't know why this card is in the deck either. And here is Sword Soul last. This is 10U Sword Soul, obviously is very popular. This guy makes a pretty silly play and really just gives me an opportunity to kind of win this duel. Infinite Impermanence luckily doesn't really do anything against this deck. Well, that's not true. I mean, it does hit Diviner, which is pretty nice. But otherwise, like, your Drytron monsters activate their effects in the hand, and special summoning is just, like, afterwards. Okay, I'm thinking, like, he must expect me to activate White Knight on the trigger effect of this, because, like, now the Infinite Impermanence is, like, offline. And he should have activated this way earlier, because now I'm going to peek into his extra deck. There he goes. The Fleur is gone. I think he had 2 copies of the one that searches the trap. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, let me get rid of one of his hard negates this turn, because then it's just kind of like a net zero what I'm doing. And I still had the Fleur there too. Another Disciple can... let's see here. Well... I'm going to get over this. In my mind, I'm thinking, like, if he has the trap, I want to try to trigger it as early as possible. But it seems like I'm in the clear here, and obviously I was. Infinite Impermanence isn't going to do anything against these Drytron monsters. And I'll probably go into, like, Herald eventually. And, yeah, that was, like, a really in-depth look at the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And, yeah, other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.